OneClimate.net at Copenhagen on a rather exciting day here. Well, exciting outside with lots of demonstrators and quite exciting inside. There seem to be various things going on, most of them behind closed doors as usual. But now we've got Atiq Rahman. In fact, I've met you so many times over the world and you're often wearing different hats. So I'm afraid I haven't had time to ask you. So which hat are you wearing here?
There are minimum 3 hats. I'm the Executive Director of Bangladesh Center for Advanced Studies, which is, I also chair the Climate Action Network South Asia. But putting a pink badge means I'm representing the government of Bangladesh up to a point.
Ah, right, okay, we got a government official. Well, we're going to get the government line here. No, I don't think so. Okay, so, well, I suppose the first question I must ask you, this is a day of demonstrations of people who want to bring this message home and tell the negotiators, you know, the men in suits to the people outside, you know, why don't you save the world? What about you yourself? You're so moving around, jetting around, flying from one to another. Do you worry about your own carbon footprint of just jet setting?
I do. I compensate it to an extent, and we have a large number of projects that we do with the communities in Bangladesh. So I offset my own self, and I mean, I know that it's very difficult to quantify carbon footprints in a big way because there are a lot of virtual prints of carbon on a larger scale. But yeah, I think I give more than I take.
I'm sure if it was an industrialized country government that was promoting offsetting, you would be lambasting them, but we all face with this dilemma. Okay, now Bangladesh we all know is in the front line, and we constantly hear about sea level rise. Obviously it's low-lying, considerable areas of it. If the water rises, Bangladesh is in trouble. Is that the only problem that Bangladesh is facing in terms of climate change?
Well, there are minimum 9 impacts on Bangladesh which are going to be major. All of them are big and major. The climate change sea level rise is one hears about a lot because Bangladesh is extremely flat in its south because of being one of the youngest delta in formation, still being formed. There's nothing wrong with the formation of the delta. That's how exactly deltas get formed. Only there are 150 million people there. If there was nobody in Amazon Delta, things are happening. But there is not many people, so you don't hear much about it. In the Bangladesh case, there is this delta in formation. This is one of the densest population in the world. At the same time, Himalayas is the biggest mountain, and huge amount of water, trillions of cusecs, pass through these 3 rivers confluence together in the coastal Bangladesh, which is the Ganges system, the Brahmaputra system, and the Meghna system, all of them originating in different parts of Himalayas and come down. So just to give one statistics is that the total amount of water that passes through Bangladesh, only 8% falls vertically on Bangladesh, 92% comes from outside. So this is a interplay of what we call the Himalayan drainage ecosystem. This is China, India, Bhutan, Nepal, Tibetan Plateau. All that water just passes through, a lot of it passes through this area. So you have tremendous amount of land-water interaction, and this being so flat does affect a huge number of people. That's why you hear more about it. Apart from that, this is one of the areas of the highest number of disasters, such as cyclones and floods. So all that combined together. So in terms of impacts on Bangladesh, sea level rise is one, which will inundate about 13% of the 17% of the country, 13% of the population of 150 million people, and for 1 meter sea level rise. And 1 meter sea level rise, according to IPCC, was supposed to happen somewhere near the end of the century. Now the snow melt is so much more rapid, both in the Arctic and in the Himalayas and all mountains across the world, that for us, for me at least, it will be happening somewhere in the middle of the century, if not earlier.
So you may maybe even in your lifetime.
Well, yeah, probably. My lifetime, I'm already seeing the sea level rise. There are people in the coastal area in thousands who have already raising their plinth of their houses. They have raised their toilets. They have raised their grain protection areas. So it's not tomorrow happening. It's happening now. and it's been happening for a while.
But I mean, Bangladeshis have learned long ago how to raise their houses, with the floods and so on. So they're kind of masters of adaptation already to the existing climate. Won't they be able to go on adapting in the ways that they've done so successfully in the past?
Yeah. Well, there is a whole concept of limits of adaptation. And the limits come when an ecosystem has collapsed and does not provide the services that it's supposed to, or a human system, a community which doesn't collapse, but its system, there is no possibility of providing itself with all the infrastructure and the facilities that's required. And that is the end of adaptation as it is. Then it becomes migration or retreat. And there is a whole academic debate about whether retreat is an adaptation option or not, or migration isn't. But for these cases, for me, it isn't. That's the end of adaptation as we know in the convention language. Then we get into migration, and there is a whole new dynamics that come into that. I had the privilege of being asked by the Human Rights Commission about 5 months ago to address them for the first time. What is the link between migration and climate change in the future world of climate strategies? So we have our own vision how we want to manage a planned migration. Migration is inevitable. There is no if or but about it. It's a question of when, how much, how we want to have it. If 300 million people start migrating, there's no power on earth, no military, no number of nuclear bombs that will be able to stop that. So we are talking of a complete different paradigm shift. How many people in the world are, disturbing the planet now? And 300 million people who don't have places to go back to will be a scenario that we don't want to think about. That's what one lesson our leaders coming here must understand what they are playing with. They are playing with dangerous fire.